So I don't make political content on my page because of my own personal experience with speaking my mind on political topics. I went to a very liberal arts college, heavy on the liberal aspect. It was basically an echo chamber of liberal indoctrination, and I barely came out of there with a sane mind because any opinion that I had that wasn't 100% on board with liberals caused me to be socially ostracized, criticized with every name in the book: racist, homophobic, bigot, this, that, and the third, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I used to be the biggest liberal out there. I actually organized and hosted my own protests when George Floyd died. Just you guys are gonna laugh, but I also had a septum piercing. I had blue hair, so I know that stereotype is out there. So it's kind of true, but that's how I was back around 2019, 2020, just that era. Where things started to change was when I started to get a lot of pushback and criticism for just speaking my own opinions on college campus. It really shook me deeply to my core and made me self-reflect, research a lot of topics, and I just started diving more into conservative opinions. So I started watching people like Amir Odom on YouTube, Amala Akanobi, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Piers Morgan, Blair White. All of those prominent YouTube channels, started watching their videos, and I started realizing how much the left has brainwashed me in a way. Just my way of thinking was very much a victim mentality, and I wasn't happy when I was a Democrat. I was very upset, angered all the time, wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't at my healthiest back then either. So I think those are very interesting correlations. Now, it may not be the case for everyone, and it probably isn't, but for me personally, that was my experience as a Democrat. And I do think that part of the reason why that was is because the Democrat mindset is that you are a victim, subject to your circumstances as an Afro-Latina Black woman here in America. It's like, oh, you have no rights because you're Black and it's hard for you, you're probably poor and you can't do anything, you can't make your life better. Just, things like that just really, when you internalize them, it becomes your reality, right? So that was my reality back then. And I had to wake up and realize that that's not the case. My mom is very successful. She has a very good, high-paying job. I was raised very comfortably, upper middle class. I was able to do whatever I wanted to do without an issue. And this is when I was growing up. So the whole idea that just because I'm Black, I can't make the most of my situation is just completely false. Same applies to my family. There's hardly anybody in my family who's really struggling. If it's, that's not due to their own choices. Of course, I have some family members who are not doing as well as they could be, but they chose to do drugs, they chose to stay in really bad areas, which of course also impact how you view life. Everything has a cause and effect. And I started realizing that. And then, of course, with Charlie Kirk passing away and being assassinated, I actually had never seen any Charlie Kirk's videos. To be honest, I didn't really know who he was. I'd heard of him, but I just didn't really know who he was. So when my coworker told me that Charlie Kirk was shot, I had to look into it, of course, because I didn't know if he was Republican, if he was liberal. I just didn't know. I didn't know where he stood. And ever since then, I've just been down the rabbit hole of Charlie Kirk's videos, and I just can't understand the hatred that this man had gotten. As someone who's also wrestled with my own faith, I grew up in a very traditional Christian household. I know what it's like to just, wrestle with that in your connection with God. Just in watching his videos, this actually strengthened my relationship with God. It's brought me closer to him just to see how passionate, how secure he was in his faith. It's actually very admirable. And you can believe what you want. I don't care what you believe in. I just know for me how I was raised, it was deeply moving for me to see a man like that, especially in today's day and age, just so proud of his faith and proud to share that with other people. I'm always scared to bring up my faith in conversation because of the criticism that I've gotten in the past, and also my own personal struggles as well. But watching his videos just showed me how dark and demonic people have been in their reaction to his assassination. I had a coworker post to a story, let's thank so-and-so for using her birthday powers to kill Charlie Kirk. Comments like that are just so disgusting. I actually can't fathom why anybody would think it's okay to post that. I'm not the biggest Kamala fan, but if she was assassinated, I would not feel joy about that. And I just think it says a lot about a person when they do express those types of feelings openly, online especially, when things like that happen. Now, you can feel however you want about Charlie Kirk. I certainly don't agree with him on every single take he's had, but I would not wish for anybody to be assassinated for just speaking their opinion, especially how he did it so eloquently, respectfully. It didn't matter who you are, black, white, brown, anything in between, mixed, from a different country as well, because many people from overseas also loved Charlie Kirk. If you're trans, gay, non-binary, any part of the rainbow, if you were on that spectrum, he would still treat you like a human being. And that's what people should do. People should aspire to be like that, to treat others with respect, regardless of what their opinions are, regardless of what their political affiliations are as well. Because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We are all worthy of being loved, respected, and accepted, and to be able to speak our minds, because that's one of our rights that we have here in the United States as American citizens. We have the right to speak our minds freely. Of course, there are consequences, but the consequence should never be death. That, to me, is just awful. And the fact that there are so many on the left who support ostracization and assassinations just because you don't agree with somebody just deeply bothers me, and is why I personally cannot associate myself with the left anymore. Any party that is like that, I can't get on board with, personally speaking. And I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like a full-on MAGA conservative, because that's not true, but I definitely do resonate more with the idea that the left has left me, because this is a party that I don't even recognize anymore. I think they have lost the plot. I think that there are some serious fundamental issues with the left that need to be addressed and reformed and changed if they expect people to proudly support the Democratic Party. Now, the right obviously is not perfect. There are some issues there as well, but I don't see people on the right celebrating horrific events like that. I really don't. All I see is just people who are accepting, loving, kind. They advocate for, the uplifting of America and American citizens to make this country the best it could be, to advocate for a free market to take advantage of this country and all the joys it has to offer, loving yourself, loving others, and respecting your relationship with faith and just traditional values, which I think have been lost. There's nothing wrong with traditional values. That should also include gay rights as well, because traditionally speaking, we've had gay rights for a long time now. So, this whole idea that, conservatives are homophobic, racist, bigoted, that's just not the case. That has not been my experience. In fact, I've been met with nothing but open arms from people on the right, as opposed to being ostracized on the left for just speaking my mind and opinion and having a clear, rational thought. Now, if you can relate to my experience, I would love to hear your journey as well in the comments. Please don't take offense to anything that I've said. This is just my own opinion and my own experience, and just me talking about it, just because I've been trying to find my community, and I felt so alone for such a long time that I do think now is the time to start finding my community and those who at least share similar experiences. So please let me know.